My brother destroyed my wedding day on purpose, and when my parents defended him like always, I decided to expose a secret that would tear our family apart forever. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe button because this story gets absolutely insane. I'm 28 now, married to the love of my life, and finally living the peaceful existence I always dreamed of. But getting here? That required burning bridges I thought I'd never have the courage to touch. My younger brother Ryan is 25, and he's been the son that our entire family has revolved around since the day he was born. Me? I was just the moon, always there, but never quite bright enough to matter. Growing up, I thought every family worked this way. Ryan would break something, I'd get blamed for not watching him. Ryan would fail a test, I'd get lectured about being a better role model. Ryan would throw a tantrum at dinner, and somehow it became my fault for not entertaining him properly. The crazy thing is, I accepted it. I actually believed I was the problem. When I was 15 and Ryan was 12, I won first place in the state science fair. I was so proud, so excited to share this moment with my family. But on the drive home from the ceremony, Ryan started crying because he was hungry. Mom immediately pulled into McDonald's and spent the entire meal talking about how we needed to make sure Ryan ate properly so he could focus on his own schoolwork. My trophy sat in the back seat, forgotten. That night, I put it on my dresser and stared at it, wondering why winning felt so much like losing. The pattern continued through high school. I got accepted to 3 colleges with partial scholarships. Ryan got suspended for cheating on his SATs. Guess which one dominated the dinner conversation for months? My parents hired him a tutor, got him into test prep courses, and somehow convinced a local college to overlook his academic dishonesty. Meanwhile, I was working 2 part-time jobs to cover what my scholarships didn't pay for. College was my escape. For years where I could just be myself, where my achievements mattered, where I wasn't constantly measuring my worth against my brother's needs. I thrived. I made friends, joined clubs, even fell in love with David, a guy from my psychology class who actually listened when I talked. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. But even from 200 miles away, Ryan found ways to steal my spotlight. During my sophomore year, he got arrested for underage drinking and destroying public property. Dad, being a lawyer, got the charges dropped, but not before calling me 6 times in one night asking me to come home and talk sense into your brother. I had finals the next week. I said no. Mom cried on the phone, telling me I was being selfish, that family comes first. I almost caved. Almost. The real breaking point came during my senior year. I was valedictorian, something I'd worked toward my entire academic career. The ceremony was scheduled for May 15th. 2 weeks before graduation, Ryan announced he was getting married to his girlfriend Sarah, who he'd been dating for 3 months. The wedding? May 15th, same day. Same time. I stared at my parents when they told me, waiting for them to see the absurdity. Instead, Mom said, "Honey, you understand, right? Ryan's been planning this for weeks. And Sarah's family is only in town that weekend. Your graduation is just a ceremony. The real accomplishment is already done. Just a ceremony." For years of straight A's, working 20 hours a week, living on ramen and coffee, and my graduation was just a ceremony. I went alone. Walked across that stage with an empty section where my family should have been sitting. David was there, cheering loud enough for 10 people, but it wasn't the same. After the ceremony, I called home. Mom answered, already tipsy from the wedding reception. "Oh sweetie, how did it go? Ryan looked so handsome today. Sarah's dress was absolutely gorgeous. You would have loved it." I hung up without saying a word. That was 8 years ago. I moved across the country, built a career in marketing, and slowly, carefully, started building a relationship with my parents again. Limited contact, surface-level conversations, holiday cards with generic messages. I thought I'd found a way to exist in their orbit without getting burned. Then David proposed. After 3 years together, he got down on one knee in the same coffee shop where we'd first met. I said yes before he even finished asking. For once in my life, I felt like I was the center of someone's universe. Planning the wedding was magical. We kept it small, intimate, just 60 people who actually mattered to us. I invited my parents and Ryan more out of obligation than desire. They seemed genuinely excited, asking about details, offering to help with expenses. Mom even volunteered to handle the flowers. I let myself hope that maybe, finally, this could be my moment. The wedding was perfect. May morning, outdoor ceremony, string quartet playing while I walked down the aisle. David was crying when he saw me, and I felt like I was floating. My parents were in the front row, looking proud for once. Ryan was there with his wife Sarah, who was now pregnant with their second child. Everyone I loved in one place, celebrating David and me. The ceremony went off without a hitch. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, David's voice breaking when he promised to always put our relationship first. The kiss, the rice throwing, the photographer capturing every smile. It was everything I'd dreamed of. Then came the reception. I should have known something was wrong when Ryan kept checking his phone during dinner. He was fidgety, whispering to Sarah, looking around the room like he was waiting for something. But I was too happy to pay attention. I was Mrs. David Chen now, and nothing could touch that joy. We were halfway through our first dance when it happened. The music cut out abruptly, replaced by Ryan's voice over the sound system. Sorry everyone, but I have an announcement that can't wait. David and I stopped dancing, confused. The DJ looked panicked, gesturing at his equipment like he couldn't figure out how Ryan had hijacked it. Ryan was standing near the microphone we'd set up for toasts, holding a wireless mic he must have grabbed from somewhere. My sister always was the smart one in the family, Ryan said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. But apparently not smart enough to do her research before marrying someone. My stomach dropped. David's hand tightened on mine. See, I work in background investigations now, Ryan continued, pacing like he was giving a presentation. And when my baby sister told me she was marrying David Chen, I thought I'd do some digging. Just to be safe, you know? Family looking out for family. I tried to move toward him, to stop whatever this was, but David held me back. Let him finish, David whispered. Let everyone see what he really is. Turns out, David here has quite the interesting past. 3 years ago, before he moved to our city, he was married to someone else. Jennifer Morrison. They divorced because David was stealing money from the company they both worked for. He was fired, she divorced him to avoid being implicated, and he moved here to start fresh. The room was dead silent. I felt like I was underwater, sounds muffled and strange. Ryan was still talking, but I couldn't process the words. David's past, his divorce, the theft allegations, none of it was true. It couldn't be true. David would have told me. The best part? Ryan's voice cut through my mental fog. He's still married to Jennifer. Turns out, the divorce was never finalized. Which makes today's ceremony completely meaningless. My sister just committed bigamy, folks. Hope you enjoyed the show. The microphone hit the floor with a screech of feedback. Ryan walked calmly back to his table, leaving chaos in his wake. Guests were staring, whispering, some already reaching for their phones. My new mother-in-law was crying. David's face had gone completely white. It's not true, I whispered to David, searching his eyes for confirmation. Tell everyone it's not true. David opened his mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. David. My voice was stronger now, demanding. Tell them. I can explain, he said finally, and my world crumbled. The next hour was a blur of humiliation. Guests leaving early, whispered conversations, my parents nowhere to be found when I needed them most. David trying to pull me aside to explain, me refusing to listen. The beautiful cake sitting untouched while my marriage imploded before it had even begun. I found my parents in the hotel bar afterward, sharing drinks with Ryan and Sarah like they were celebrating. When they saw me, still in my wedding dress, Mom had the audacity to look concerned. "Honey, are you okay? We were just talking about how lucky it is that Ryan found out before you got in too deep." Lucky. My wedding day was destroyed. My husband had lied to me about being married to someone else, and my parents thought I was lucky. "Did you know?" I asked Ryan directly. "Before today, did you know about David's past?" Ryan shrugged, not even pretending to look sorry. "I've known for months. I was going to tell you privately, but you never seem to have time for family conversations anymore. Figured a public announcement might get your attention." Months. He'd known for months and saved it for my wedding day. "Why?" The word came out broken, desperate. "Why would you do this to me?" "Because someone had to protect you," Mom interjected. "You've always been too trusting, too naive. Ryan was looking out for you." Looking out for me. By destroying the happiest day of my life in front of 60 people. I walked away without another word. David was waiting in our hotel room, still in his tuxedo, head in his hands. When I walked in, he looked up with red-rimmed eyes. "Let me explain," he said immediately. "Please, just let me explain." So I listened. And the truth was somehow worse than Ryan's lie. David had been married before. That part was true. But Jennifer wasn't his ex-wife's name, it was Jessica. And they weren't divorced because of theft. They were divorced because Jessica had been having an affair with David's business partner, and when David found out, he'd tried to expose the embezzlement scheme they'd been running together. Jessica had turned it around, made it look like David was the guilty party. He'd lost his job, his reputation, and his marriage all at once. The divorce had been finalized. David showed me the papers. But he'd never told me about any of it because he was ashamed, afraid I'd think less of him. Ryan had gotten just enough information to craft a devastating lie, mixing truth with fiction in the cruelest possible way. "I should have told you," David said, tears streaming down his face. "I wanted to, so many times. But I was terrified of losing you." I looked at this man I'd just married, this man who'd been carrying such a heavy secret, and I felt something break inside me. Not love. That was still there, stronger than ever. What broke was my willingness to let my family treat me like a supporting character in my own life. "We're going to fix this," I told David. "But first, I'm going to fix them." David and I left for our honeymoon the next day, just as planned. But instead of the romantic getaway we'd imagined, we spent the week planning. David told me everything about his past, every detail he'd been too scared to share. I told him everything about my family, all the years of being overlooked and dismissed. We made a pact, no more secrets between us, and no more tolerance for people who couldn't respect our relationship. When we got back, I started digging. If Ryan wanted to play private investigator, I could play too. I hired an actual professional, someone who specialized in financial investigations. I gave him one target, my brother Ryan. It took 6 weeks to get the full picture, but it was worth the wait. Ryan's background investigation business was a scam. He had no license, no credentials, no legal authority to access the databases he claimed to use. He was basically cold calling people and making up stories based on social media stalking and Google searches. The evidence he'd presented about David was entirely fabricated. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what he'd been doing to other people. Ryan had been blackmailing clients, threatening to reveal compromising information unless they paid him extra fees. He'd destroyed at least 3 relationships with false accusations, broken up a business partnership, and caused one man to lose custody of his children based on completely manufactured evidence. My brother wasn't just a narcissist. He was a predator. The investigator also uncovered Ryan's financial situation. Despite living in a nice house and driving expensive cars, he was drowning in debt. The fake business wasn't making enough money to support his lifestyle, so he'd been taking out loans using Dad's law practice as collateral. If Ryan's scam collapsed, it would take Dad's career down with it. I had everything I needed to destroy him. But I wanted to do it right. I wanted to make sure everyone knew exactly who Ryan really was before I pulled the trigger. I started with the wedding guests. I sent a carefully crafted email to everyone who'd been there, apologizing for the chaos and explaining what had really happened. I included copies of David's actual divorce decree, character references from his former colleagues, and a detailed breakdown of how Ryan had fabricated his evidence. I didn't accuse Ryan of anything illegal yet. I just wanted people to know the truth. The response was immediate and overwhelming. People were horrified. Several guests reached out to share their own stories about Ryan making them uncomfortable at family events over the years. Others admitted they'd always thought something was off about him but hadn't known how to articulate it. Then I reached out to Ryan's other victims. The investigator had given me names, and I contacted each of them. Most were too embarrassed to go public, but 3 agreed to file formal complaints with the state attorney general's office. That gave me the legal ammunition I needed. Finally, I called my parents. I asked them to meet me for dinner, somewhere public where they couldn't make a scene. They seemed excited, probably thinking I was ready to forgive and forget. I wasn't. I know what Ryan's been doing, I said without preamble once we'd ordered. The fake business, the blackmail, the financial fraud. All of it. Dad's face went pale, but he tried to bluff. I don't know what you're talking about. He's been using your law practice as collateral for loans he can't repay, I continued. When his scam collapses, and it will, the State Bar Association is going to take a very close look at your involvement. Did you know he was committing fraud, Dad? Or were you just willfully ignorant? Mom started crying. Why are you doing this? He's your brother. He made a mistake at your wedding, but you can't destroy his entire life over it. A mistake. Destroying my wedding day with fabricated evidence was a mistake. This isn't about the wedding, I said calmly. This is about Ryan being a career criminal and you two enabling him every step of the way. But here's the thing. I don't want to destroy anyone. I want to give you all a chance to make this right. I slid a folder across the table. These are copies of everything I've found. Tomorrow morning, I'm taking the originals to the police and the state attorney general. But I'll give you 12 hours to convince Ryan to turn himself in and make restitution to his victims. If he does that, maybe the authorities will be lenient. If he doesn't. I shrugged and stood up. Then he'll find out what a real investigation looks like. Dad was frantically flipping through the documents, his lawyer brain processing the implications. How did you get all this? This is private financial information. Ryan taught me the importance of thorough research, I said. The difference is, my investigator actually has credentials. I left them there with the evidence of their golden child's crimes and went home to David. We opened a bottle of wine and waited. The call came at 11 p.m. Ryan, screaming threats through the phone. How dare I hire someone to spy on him? How dare I threaten his family? How dare I try to destroy everything he'd built? You built nothing, I told him calmly. You stole, you lied, and you hurt people. And tomorrow, everyone will know exactly what you are. I'll deny everything, he said. It's your word against mine, and Mom and Dad will back me up. They always do. Actually, I said, putting the phone on speaker so David could hear, it's not my word against yours. It's documented evidence against your denials. Bank records, email communications, victim testimonies. Oh, and Ryan? I recorded this entire conversation. Threatening a witness is a felony. The line went quiet for a long moment. Then Ryan's voice came back, smaller now, scared. What do you want? I want you to face the consequences of your actions for once in your life, I said. No dad pulling strings, no mom making excuses. Just you, taking responsibility for what you've done. And if I don't? Then tomorrow morning, I hand everything over to the authorities and let them sort it out. Your choice. He hung up without another word. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. It was Mom, sobbing. He's gone. Ryan packed a bag in the middle of the night and disappeared. He left a note saying he was sorry and that we shouldn't try to find him. I felt empty. Not satisfied, not vindicated. Just tired. Mom, I said gently, this isn't my fault. This is the result of 30 years of you and Dad teaching Ryan that actions don't have consequences. I didn't make him run. His own choices did. But what about Sarah and the kids? What about our family? Our family. Even now, even with Ryan's victims and Dad's career hanging in the balance, she was worried about how this would affect them. Sarah will be better off without a husband who's a criminal, I said. The kids will be better off without a father who teaches them that lying and stealing are acceptable. And you and Dad, maybe you'll finally learn the difference between love and enabling. I kept my word. I turned over all the evidence to the authorities that morning. Ryan's disappearance didn't stop the investigation. If anything, it made him look more guilty. Dad ended up losing his law license for 18 months while the state bar investigated his involvement. He wasn't charged criminally, but his reputation never recovered. Sarah filed for divorce and moved back to her hometown with the kids. She sent me a thank you card 6 months later, saying she'd always known something was wrong but hadn't known how to escape. The divorce settlement gave her everything, since Ryan had abandoned them with massive debts. My parents, well, they blamed me for everything. According to them, I'd torn the family apart out of spite. They couldn't see that Ryan had torn the family apart long before I'd exposed his crimes. They'd just been too invested in the lie to notice. I blocked their numbers after Dad called me a vindictive witch who destroyed her own brother's life for attention. The irony was perfect. After 30 years of Ryan getting all the attention, Dad accused me of wanting too much of it. David and I are happy now. Really happy. We had a small ceremony with just our closest friends, exchanging vows that meant something this time. No lies, no secrets, no family members waiting to sabotage our joy. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. If I should have found a way to handle things privately, kept the family together somehow. But then I remember all the years I stayed quiet, all the times I let them make me feel like I was the problem. I remember the other people Ryan hurt, the lives he damaged while my parents looked the other way. I didn't destroy my family. I just stopped pretending we were one. The truth is, some bridges are meant to be burned. Some relationships are so toxic that the only healthy choice is to walk away. And sometimes, the people who claim to love you the most are the ones doing the most damage. I'm not the moon anymore, orbiting around someone else's light. I'm my own star now, burning bright in a sky of my own choosing. And honestly, the view is beautiful from here. Hit subscribe if you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own peace of mind.